Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today we will be talking about what is turning out to be a crazy AFC West this season. Every team in the division is 500 or better, um, and they're all within 2 games of the division crown. Um, if the season ended today, Kansas City would win the division at 8-4. The Chargers would get a wild card at 7-5, and Denver and the Raiders would be left out of the playoffs at 6-6. So in this video, I'm going to talk about these 4 teams a little bit, and ultimately where I think this division is going to go. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get this going. So I think the team that is least surprising here, and the team I'll talk about the least, because we already know who they are, is the Kansas City Chiefs. They started out pretty slow. Mahomes was getting a lot of tip passes picked, which usually doesn't happen to him, so it was very bad for his stats whenever it started happening. Um, and a lot of people were freaking out about Mahomes and the Chiefs, and oh, they're not going to compete. No. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are too good together to not at least make the wild card. Ultimately, I think the Chiefs are definitely the favorites to win this division. Um, I think I think 2 of the other teams definitely could win this division. If Kansas City kind of struggles a little bit down the stretch, and because this division's too close to call right now for sure. Um, and I think their closest rival is probably going to be the Los Angeles Chargers, one of the most snakebit teams in the league. Um, Justin Herbert has done a great job um, since he was drafted last year. He came in immediately and just turned this team around. The Chargers usually are a laughing stock. They have no fans apparently, but they should have fans now because Herbert really has been playing well for them. Getting the ball to Mike Williams, getting the ball to Keenan Allen, getting the ball to Austin Eckler out of the backfield. Their defense has been super underrated too. A lot of, at least part of that win loss record is on their defense for sure. Their defense has kept them in games almost every week. They have close games a lot of the time. Um, Next after them, and the team that I also should mention that I think the Chargers are one of the teams that can potentially threaten Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Um, but ultimately, I think the Chargers probably finish around, we'll say 9-8, maybe 10-7. They've just been very inconsistent this year, and I think that's probably not going to be good enough to overtake Kansas City at 11 or 12 wins. Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who are currently in the middle of their mid-season slide. Of they've just had been absolutely tormented by so many things. Henry Ruggs, obviously, Damon Arnett, um, John Gruden. Like they're missing a lot of players and people around this team that would make a big difference. And I think that team that is missing those players shows up and they'll play you hard. They beat Dallas, but they really are missing that deep threat on offense now. Their cornerbacks are somewhat suspect. Their linebackers, their defense in general is somewhat of a cause for concern, I would say. What's going to sink them is going to end up probably being that. And then the Raiders are just very inconsistent every year, and they're in the middle of a big skid. So it's hard for me to think that Rick Bisaccia is going to conquer what John Gruden couldn't do. And finally, we have the Denver Broncos. At the beginning of the year, everyone was hailing this team as a great team because they beat some awful competition. Then they had to play real teams, and they're middle of the pack right now. I honestly think that they're not going to stay middle of the pack. I think they're going to be, oh goodness, maybe like a 7 or 8 win team. I don't really see playoffs for them. Vic Fangio, honestly, for the Broncos, I think it would be bad for them to make the playoffs because Fangio needs to go. But George Payton, I think, should stick around. He hasn't had enough time to prove himself as GM. And apparently, the Broncos might be up for sale. Um, what they really need is a quarterback who can get the ball downfield to Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton. Apparently, they're in the mix for Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, so they're trying to get a big arm guy. And that's what happened last time with Peyton Manning. So obviously, I think they're going to be active and try to find their future guy outside of the draft and in free agency. So ultimately, I think that can my final predictions for the um, standings for the AFC West will be Kansas City in first with about 11 to 12 wins. The Chargers somewhere with like 9 to 11 wins. So potentially winning the division, but I imagine that Kansas City will win it. Um, I think Denver probably gets 7 or 8 wins. Um, Hopefully not enough to save Vic Fangio's job, but it's really hard to know that. Um, and then I think the Raiders, the wheels are really going to fall off. It wouldn't shock me if they lost out just because they're missing so many players. But I think they'll probably get like 7 wins. They'll probably sneak one more in against the Broncos or something. But yeah, I think that'll about do it for this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Um, Also, join us on Instagram, Pat's Breaking, with all your Patriots news compared to the entire NFL on here. So, this is Scoop and Soar signing off, and I hope you have a good day.